In this video, I'll give you 3-star players who will bust in week 2 of the fantasy football season. I'm Jim Coventry of Rotowire. Let's start out with Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers at home against the Colts. Yes, I understand. The Colts were just shredded by Joe Mixon last week. Mixon goes 30 carries, $159 and a touchdown, also 19 yards receiving. So why would I possibly think that Josh Jacobs is going to struggle against the Colts? Well, the first thing is Malik Willis is at quarterback. And last week when Joe Mixon went off, clearly the Colts had to worry about C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, and maybe even Dalton Schultz a little bit. They had no ability to worry about the rushing attack, and Mixon had plenty of room to run. This week's going to be entirely different. First of all, with Malik Willis, I don't know that's going to be an NFL passing offense. So we are going to see a lot of bodies down near the line of scrimmage to try to force the action. And if the Packers try to run the ball, they're going to be shooting gaps and making life miserable. Now remember, Josh Jacobs did well in the week 1 game against the Eagles. But in the first half, if you watch that game, the Eagles were definitely playing the run. And in the first half, Josh Jacobs had 6 carries for 4 yards. Yes, that's 0.7 yards per carry. He did chip in a 9-yard catch on 2 targets. So there was that. But realistically, we are going to see the same type of effort from the Colts. Now let's flash back to that week 1 game. In the second half, Jacobs was great. Why? Well, Philly played the pass in the second half. You could see the total attention shift and the players moved back. They weren't in the box anymore. They were dealing with Jordan Love and those receiving weapons. I don't think there's a point in this game where that happens. So as a result, Josh Jacobs is not in a good spot here. I don't think the run blocking is going to be able to overcome extra bodies in the box. So yes, Josh Jacobs, good player, bad situation, probably busting this week. If you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the RotoWire channel on YouTube. Also, check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial. No credit card needed. Just head on over to rotowire.com/try to see all of our content. All right, next star player who is in line for a down week, George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Denver Broncos. Now, look, Pickens did what he needed to do against Atlanta. Even though Justin Fields threw the ball 23 times, Pickens had 7 of those targets. Very strong target share. 6 catches for 85 yards. It's what we expect from George Pickens. The problem I see here is that against Denver last week, Patrick Surtain pretty much stayed with DK Metcalf the whole game. It was most of the pass routes that Metcalf ran, Surtain stayed on him. Now, last year, Surtain wasn't doing that nearly as much. So I have to assume with Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin being the other receivers, Patrick Surtain is probably going to be on George Pickens a lot. Now, can Pickens beat Surtain? Maybe, possibly, maybe even probably. But Justin Fields is not likely to have clear sight lines to throw to his top receiver. And do you really trust Justin Fields to throw the ball into a tighter window against Surtain? When Fields knows that if he makes mistakes, he probably gets benched for Russell Wilson as soon as Wilson is healthy. Fields has a chance of keeping this job, and his best way of doing that is by not making mistakes. Now, back to Surtain last week against Metcalf. Metcalf played 88% of the snaps, 4 targets, just 3 catches for 29 yards. We could see a similar stat line from George Pickens this week. All right, the next one, Michael Pittman of the Indianapolis Colts will be at the Green Bay Packers. Now, look, you saw last week's game. Green Bay got torched by the Philadelphia receivers. A.J. Brown took a long pass to the house. Devontae Smith put up very strong numbers. And so now you're saying, well, why wouldn't Michael Pittman do very well? Well, last week, the Indianapolis Colts played the Houston Texans, and it was a game they trailed often. Yet Anthony Richardson threw the ball just 19 times. And where Richardson really did his damage was in the deep passing game. Well, that's not where Pittman operates. Now, Pittman did see almost half of the targets, not quite, but 8 out of 19 of Richardson's passes did go to Michael Pittman. But 4 catches for 31 yards. And it wasn't like Houston is this shutdown pass defense. Now, that said, we are going to see the Packers. And the Packers will likely go into this game. Jair Alexander probably is on Pittman quite a bit. We saw this cornerback, Jair Alexander, on A.J. Brown a lot last week. I don't know that they're going to bother putting him on if Josh Downs even makes it back this week. Not sure with his injury. Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell. I don't think if they're gonna move somebody. I don't think it's gonna be for that reason. But even in the case where they don't shadow, if Pittman's on the same side of the field with Alexander, I just think that's going to be a negative on all of those snaps. And realistically, think about this game script. Malik Willis is the quarterback for Green Bay. There's a very good chance it's a low-scoring game. It's a close game. Maybe even the Colts get a lead in this game. In any of those scenarios, it's probably the Colts running the ball all day. I don't see them airing it out. So yes, Michael Pittman is in line for another down game in week 2.